Hello dear friends. In this video we will talk about May 2022 and about the most important celestial events. We are entering this month of May after the eclipse of the Sun that happened on the April the 30th in the sign of Taurus. The solar eclipse is happening always on new moon, which you most probably know. And you will remember that we talk about this eclipse at the end of the video for April. I said in which parts of the world it was visible, as well as I also mentioned that this eclipse had very good aspects to the planets in Pisces. Now still Jupiter, Neptune and Venus are in Pisces in a very high position, and this stellium symbolizes salvation, wealth of positive feelings, spiritual growth, and the hope that everything can be overcome, because there are some real forces on earth and in heaven that can help us move into the new state of consciousness, which is absolutely necessary for all of us, because in this way we can't survive as we are now. Of course, this constellation, like all others, have its negative forms as well, and some of those negative forms are great illusions and mass hypnosis, and really we see that also around us everywhere in the last month, as it was also before. So during the eclipse, the moon was in a very good position. Moon was in Taurus, and this symbolism generally was quite good for all of us. So it means that we can move on, that things can happen in a more positive way, no matter that we are now going through some difficulties. Let's mention lunar activity in the month of May. The full moon will be on May 16 in Scorpio, which is going to be the total lunar eclipse, the first this year, first one. We will talk about that in this video. And then there is going to be new moon in May 30th of May, in Gemini sign. From the important transits, let's mention the Sun that is going to be in Taurus until the 21st, and then will be in Gemini. Mercury is until the 23rd in Gemini, then it's in Taurus, but it is retrograde from the 10th of May. Venus is almost the whole month in Aries, which is very weak position for Venus, so it means that through this month, the law of attraction will not really function for us. Then Mars will be going to be in a weak position almost all month in Pisces, where Mars behaves like crazy, because he can't use his will, and he's very confused with Neptunian energies that are doing things against his fire. But of course, if it's a spiritual warrior, Mars here can have good results. And then the most important thing, Jupiter from May 11th is going to be in Aries, and this is happening for the first time after the 12 years, because Jupiter has 12-year cycle. Sorry, I have to drink from the time to time because I am having some troubles with my throat. I will now say a few of the important aspects. I will mention them and I will describe them shortly indeed. On the May the 1st, Venus is in sextile with Pluto. This is very good when Venus and Pluto have good aspects, because they are the rulers of Rahu and Ketu, while we have eclipses on Scorpio Taurus axis. So the beginning of the month is quite harmonious, but later on May 27, Venus and Pluto will make square. So at the end of the month, things will not develop in the best possible way. If we speak about our collective growth and if we speak also about spiritual growth of each of us, because nodes are connected with our growth, and rulers of them are now Venus and Pluto. Then on the May the 3rd, Jupiter makes sextile to Pluto, which is a good day for regeneration. On May the 5th, Sun is in conjunction with Uranus. It always creates some big drama because Sun discovers secrets. And if Uranus had some secrets while being in Taurus, as for example having some biolaboratories in the world, cloning people and creating pathogens that they were using against us, then maybe this can be discovered. Then on the May 15, Sun may square to Saturn, and this aspect is part of the eclipse, so I will talk about that in details later on. Then on the May 18, Mars makes conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. This is very confusing energy for warriors. Then on May 19, Sun is trining Pluto, which gives us some sort of stability. May 21st, Mercury and Sun at the exact degree. This is what they call in Jyotish, they call this aspect Kazimi. This is supposed to be very, very powerful Mercury, but this Mercury will be retrograde. So powerful for some investigation, for a some sort of revision of the past, but not powerful in its typical activities. Even confusing can be very. So messages can be very, very confusing with this aspect. Messages that we are getting or giving to anyone. May 23rd, the Sun will be in sextile with Jupiter. This is a beautiful day and it gives us some lightness of being. Then on May 27, Venus is squaring Pluto, which we mentioned already, and May 29, Mars is in conjunction with Jupiter. This is some visionary fight. Very good for all of those who have visions and they want to go into the action. Now we will continue the story of eclipses, since we are in the eclipse season until May 16th. So we have these 2 weeks in spring now, which are that so-called season of eclipses, and this is very special time in the year where many things are changing in us and because of us. You may be wondering why I talk about eclipses so much in my videos. That's not that typical for tropical astrology, but believe me, these are key events for our planet. So take a look at the picture that I use at YouTube for this video. There you will see the part of the hat. And many knows this hat round and going like this and then like this. Many don't know this hat as the Merlin's hat from Anglo-Saxon legends, but it is not originally from there. This is very, very old hat that was worn by the astrologers in the ancient cultures of Middle East. And the circles that you see there drawn, they represent the sun and moon, so the solar lunar calendar. So it's very sad thing that in today's time such hats are worn by some negative figures in movies. It should not be used in that way. I want to say that we have very accurate tables of eclipses for the 5,000-6,000 years in the past. Many people don't know about this, and even those who are doing researches in eclipses don't know much about this. For example, Bernadette Brady in English has a book about eclipses, but not many people know how to use this knowledge and how to acquire the tables of eclipses. But let's just say now just that they are very important for spiritual astrology, and I'm very much involved in spiritual astrology. I even have a special reading of horoscope on my web pages. It is called What is the Meaning of Your Existence? And I do this interpretation according to eclipses and nodes in one's horoscope. Also, I made a few years ago a special video about eclipses. The name of this video is Astrology, Eclipses, and Our Spiritual Path. So you can see that, or you can order these consultations with me if you're interested in those topics. the knowledge related to the eclipses has been hidden from us in a way, and I have been discovering it with difficulties for many years, as many other people, because practically there are no real books that we can study about that. Or any astrologer maybe learned something because he had some empirical experiences by working with horoscopes, but we don't have this, how to say, some systematic knowledge about eclipses. But one thing we can say about them, they bring some sort of reversal. So this reversal is sometimes very unpleasant and it's unexpected, but it is always necessary for our path of self-knowledge or for our spiritual growth. You can understand that what we are living, that it is the process of self-knowledge. This would be some sort of cyclical approach, or you can speak about spiritual growth, which is a linear approach. Whichever you choose, it is more or less the same. So when eclipses happen, sometimes in some significant points of our horoscope, then we experience the reversal of 180 degrees in some situation. And we can find ourselves to be somewhere where we did not expect it that we will be. But what is interesting, this is usually in accord with the path of the soul that our soul chose before we were incarnated. The plan and the path of our soul, which the soul chooses, is a very long story. We cannot talk about that in details, but eclipses are reminding us on that. And this also works on mundane level. As a collective, we are moving towards something new because it's time for that. It's necessarily for our future development. And we just need to understand that, If we would understand that we always go through some sort of reversals of this kind, we would not have problems. But there are some forces in this world which do not want to live in accord with the cosmic power. And that's why we have these troubles that we have. It is quite certain that now humanity is going towards some change. And this change the topic of this change is connected with Scorpio and Taurus. And you most probably know that this is some material life on Earth. This is the topic. The series of eclipses that begin in fall of 2021 continues now and culminates in the fall of 2022. When will total eclipse of the moon in Taurus happen? At the November the 8th. And it is quite clear that the autumn is a period of great challenges. The effect of the eclipse is felt at least half of a year, sometimes even longer. And I think that those eclipses that are now happening on Taurus-Scorpio axis, we will feel until the end of the 2025. The total eclipse of the moon on May 16 belongs to the Saros series 131. These eclipses in this series appeared in years 1878, 1914, 1968, for example, and some other. I chose those that are quite famous. And you see that these are years of conflict. You remember maybe that in the video about the eclipses on the Taurus-Scorpio axis, that is on YouTube, we said that there would be no great destructive war. I still think so, but there are conflicts in several places in the world now, although they report only about one that in Ukraine, but there are two others that are even bigger than those. In Arabic countries and on the border with Mexico. However, you can also say that there are always some fights, there are always war. Yes, but these conflicts are going to be very significant because now, when Pluto is at the last degrees of Scorpio, we will see the end of old structures and the beginning of new ruling structures, the creation of new ruling structures. So this is why now this is important. The eclipses that occur now in May will happen at the 25th degree of Scorpio, Moon will be there, while the Sun is going to be in the 25th degree of Taurus. So this opposition is happening again near the star Algol, which is at the 28th degree of Taurus and is known as the demonic star or Medusa's head. And we mentioned this eclipses on this point already in my video for November 2021. And I also talk about that in my video on YouTube about eclipses on Taurus-Scorpio axis. So if you're interested, you can watch these a bit older videos. I'm not going to repeat myself now, but I will say a few things. It is important to know that this Algol is going to be intrigued since 2021 until the 2025. Now with eclipses, and later on because Uranus will conjunct the star Algol. Uranus will make the conjunction with Algol in the years 2024 and 2025. It will be a very long conjunction, much longer than it was in the year 1941 when that happened the last time. So eclipses and Uranus in combination with this star are dangerous for humanity, but the great disasters can be avoided if we know in advance that they are coming. If we follow the stars and we live in accord with this astrology knowledge, we would know how to deal with such energies. So now you will ask how to avoid the negative effects of this eclipse. Well, for the humanity, I would say, instead of waging war, we should implement economic reform in the world. And we should be ready for reforms that would positively change our values. We need to change values and attitude towards resources and material wealth. Instead of man being destroyed by reduced to the level of machine and robot, which they're trying to do with us, with this constellation, man can regain his human dignity. Also, instead of destroying nature and instead of cruelly exploiting the earth, we need to turn to nature to learn from it and respect its fruits, because everything we humans need for food, housing, medical treatment, etc. gives us our Mother Earth. So this technological progress sooner or later will be understood as some very strange Promethean fight, as completely something that is working against man on earth. Sooner or later we will understand that. So this eclipse occurred at the 25th degree of Scorpio, which according to ancient astrologers is bright, and which according to Hindu astrology is described as a man who sails on a stormy sea. This is considered to be the degree of sacrifice. Therefore, man does not look at the danger and sails on. So you see, this degree in different traditions is a very good one. And it's interesting that it's connected with the element of water, and we know that this is the year of water. We spoke about that in my video about Chinese Feng Shui and this kind and other videos. So there are in this world, there is one or more people who are very brave and who resist difficulties. Some would say this is not possible anymore, that we live in a world of degenerated people who are not able to be brave anymore, but this is not the case. There are still very brave people. However, eclipses on the Taurus-Scorpio axis mean that the time is very serious and very dangerous. We can't avoid that. And when this passes in 2023, Rahu will move into Aries sign, and then we will have eclipses on Libra-Aries axis, and then this war, which is now economic war and war for the biological world on Earth, then will change into real conflict. There will be bigger conflicts. And now when Jupiter is entering the sign of Aries in May 22, this militant energy of Aries is already obvious. It's already there, and it will grow in a way. These eclipses will be visible in eastern part of USA, in Latin America. Watch that. So things will happen now in Latin America. There are going to be some big shifts there. It will be partly visible in Western America, Europe, and Africa. Based on that, we know that it will influence these parts of the world. For example, the horoscope of European Union has a conjunction of Pluto and Mars in Scorpio at 24th degree, which speaks of enormous power and desire for power and money. This is today's European Union. However, the current eclipse is closing this energy, or it's blocking it. And it is likely that the European Union will lose its power, resources or money, or all of that, over the next 6 months or a year, or during next year. It will simply be the time for the European Union to give up of something, power, money, and these kind of things, or universe will take it away from them in a way. On the other side, NATO is Aries in horoscope, and when Jupiter enters there, NATO will have more militant appetites during this and during next year, especially when there are going to be eclipses in Aries in the next year. We will not be mistaken if we say that with this eclipse in Scorpio, the European Union is entering the phase of its disintegration. We saw recently how computers elect president in France, just the same as it happened in America with Biden's election, when he was also elected because they manipulated the data in computer. However, people still go to vote because they believe in democracy. Well, if it's so, let it be. But this will unfortunately have extremely negative consequences for the whole world, not just for the European Union. This simply means that these dark forces still rule. During this eclipse, both the Sun and the Moon will be in square with the planet Saturn, which is very limiting energy. Saturn always blocks things from developing in a fruitful and natural way. Where Saturn is, there is no natural growth. On the contrary, everything is artificial and it's untrue. This is Saturn. So the situation in the world will be very tense all May, and it's obvious that some unnatural things will happen, to stop, to block some reversal which is necessarily to happen. Let's look at some mythical stories. According to ancient mythology, Europa, this is Europe, was an ancient woman who was stolen by Zeus turned into bull. He took Europa or Europe on the west, and because of his beauty he gave the name of that continent Europe, and he gave her a gift which was the arrow which always hits its target, and he gave to Europe beautiful jewelry of great value. So this myth has very rich symbolism and it was very often interpreted. But now I will only mention two things. That now we will see that Europe, through European Union, has to give up of its arrow and give up of its jewelry. Which effect will that have and consequences on all of us, we will see in the year to come. Maybe you would ask, how will this eclipse affect individuals? The total eclipse of the moon on May 16 will have the greatest impact on people who have planets from the 20th to the 29th degree of Scorpio, or also Taurus. The whole first 2 weeks of May, it will be the time for everybody, especially for those people, to contemplate and to listen. Let's listen very carefully what universe is telling us. Maybe we will be surprised by the intensity of our feelings. And the most common topics will be money, resources, fears, and generally some negative feelings. We already see that hatred is very obvious and dominant feeling in today's world. They are teaching people to hate one country or two countries on the east. But clever people will not hate, they will these strong feelings transform. How to transform, you would ask? By trusting. So the key word in May and with these eclipses is trust. We simply need to trust in the power of life. Always when something dies, something new is born. And life continues. Maybe different than before, maybe something is really bad, and that can be sad, but always there is something new, which is the symbol of this continuation of life. The Taurus-Scorpio axis talks about values. So many of us will gain value, you know. Many of us will now be in a situation to see that we have bigger worth than we thought. Because there is going to be some special gift that will come to us through our friends, through our company, through our work. Because generally some very good things will happen in our life that we will ask ourselves, how did I deserve this? Well, if that happened, you certainly deserved it. And of course, in contrary, you know, some people will lose something, maybe because they overestimated themselves. So everything depends on that, how integrated we were as a person before these eclipses appear. And now let's say a few words about Jupiter in Aries. This is particularly significant celestial event. Always when Jupiter changes sign, people are excited and everybody is thinking about that, what new and what fantastic Jupiter will bring. Because of course it is the planet of luck and it's our guru, our big teacher, the teacher who is generous to us. Well, Jupiter changes its sign every 12 years and now will be in Aries briefly from May 11 to October 29, and then will be in Pisces again, where Jupiter is actually in a better position. So we'll be in Pisces from October 29 to December 20th, and after that, the next year will be in Aries again. Jupiter in Pisces give us hope and it's making us to feel more connected with the higher power. And when Jupiter is in Aries, he wakens up in us warrior spirit. We definitely need both of things. Jupiter in Aries, however, is not a real warrior because there is something youthful and naive in this sign. In mythology, one of its representatives is Frix. Frix was the boy who was taken by the ram with the golden fleece, who could even fly, was taken to the east. So this story opens the whole series of events in mythology that were followed later, and the culmination of this story was when Jason his crusade went to the east for the golden fleece. But Jupiter in Aries is marking the beginning of all of those events. After all, Aries is a symbol of spring, not only in astrology, like the animal ram is a symbol of spring in many cultures. This is very young energy, victorious and very optimistic, but it's very early phase. However, in our history, there have been various so-called springs. For example, 12 years ago, when Jupiter was also in the sign of Aries, the so-called Arab Spring happened, when chaos was created under this name of spring in the countries of North Africa and Middle East, where they, you know who they are, they destroyed those countries and their leaders, which some of them were absolutely fantastic ones. So you cannot be a fantastic leader in today's world. You have to be the slave. So that's what they think, So that's why they're destroying all of this, unfortunately, but let's hope for the change. So what kind and which spring is starting now, we will see. We can hope it will be better one. It is quite certain that with Jupiter in Aries, now something is starting that will grow next year, 2023, and next years also. All of those events will have the symbolism of Aries. So now with Jupiter in Aries influence all of us, and maybe you are wondering how will influence you as an individual. To know this, you need to know your horoscope and to know where do you have Aries in your horoscope, which astrological house is in Aries. And there will be some fortunate events, definitely. The biggest stars, of course, are Aries themselves, so people who have Sun, Moon, or maybe even other planets in Aries, they are starting new 12-year cycle now. Also people with ascendant in Aries. And Aries people can make now new plans, can study something new, can start a new business, new project, have visions of the future and things like that. Since they like to fight and quarrel with others and with life generally, it will not be difficult for them to play with this energy and to fight for the place under the sun. Because actually we all, with this position of Jupiter, need to fight. And all to use some sort of force or some sort of a will, have a will to do something. So yes, for all of us, this energy gives some enthusiasm and strength to achieve something. It will be much easier to achieve things now. Since Aries is the first sign of zodiac, this will be the beginning of a new phase of life in one area for everybody. So not just because of transit of Jupiter, but because of Aries also. Furthermore, each of us should do our part and help to get out of this misery that someone is building for the humanity. Now we will better understand with this position of Jupiter that we are individually responsible for everything that is happening. In the politics, Jupiter in Aries emphasizes the leader position, and it is possible that now one big leader or few people will appear who will have new ideas. And that's some relief for all of us because we know all the ideas. We have seen them in the last 2 years, and now it's really time for something new. And it is known that in many countries now they made temporary governments and that army and police are divided because they are expecting some sort of guerrilla wars, which means that it's quite known that people are not be as stupid as before, or let's say sheep as before, and that we will now more show the strength and be those rams with those horns who are ready to fight. Let's mention Mercury. Mercury is going to be retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And the most confusing day is going to be the May the 10th, when Mercury will be stationary retrograde. That day we should not trade, we should not sign contracts or make any deals. Maybe not buy tickets, not travel, and so on. From May 10 to 24th, Mercury brings especially confusing energy because he does not like to be retrograde in his own sign. When he is in Gemini, he especially likes to fly and to deliver messages. But unfortunately, in this period of time, the messages will go to the wrong place or will be there in the wrong time and things like that will happen. From May 24th, Mercury will be retrograde in Taurus, and maybe it will be easier for him to accept his stagnation when he's in Taurus, where is always slow Mercurian energy. So basically we wait With most of the practical things, we like wait until the June the 3rd, when Mercury will be direct after that. Retrograde Mercury in Gemini, generally to all of us, will bring more lies and manipulations in a big way, but can be very good if we want to do some research or we want to study something that we work on before even, or we want to do some revision of the past events. Mercury is the planet of communication, of course, and in today's time we communicate through satellites and some space programs, and it's possible that there is going to be some revision of these satellites, of this type of communication, or maybe even that will be interrupted in some of those days when Mercury will be retrograde. And then on the May the 30th, new moon will be in Gemini also. And this will announce the beginning of new communication and actually new understanding of things and new ways of sending information. Something will happen after the 30th and after the 3rd of June. Some new trends begin with this and develop in the next 6 months, maybe even longer. Mercury symbolizes traveling. So after the 30th of May, travel conditions can change. Let's hope that it will be easier to travel and that people will not accept special passes, those with square, that they should use to prove that they have accepted to be monitored by robots. You know what I mean? Let's hope people will not accept this. And think of that, how wonderful it would be to travel without any documents, freely and without fear, which we certainly can create. We human beings who live in this world, we can create whatever we want. We just need to understand that. After all, we keep talking that all the time, that some dark groups that have achieved modern technology have their own vision of the world, which actually they want to destroy. They're playing with people with the idea to destroy them. But we can always have our vision of the future, of happy and free people, living in abundance and love, grateful to God for everything, or to cosmic power if you want, for everything that is given to them generously. And may these prayers continue to be a part of our lives, as we said in April. So thank you, God, for everything. Thank you, Sun, for everything. Thank you, Earth, that you feed us. And may life flourish on Earth. And that's all what I wanted to tell you now in this May video. You will find all of the links and contacts under this video on YouTube in the description. I'm on Telegram. You will find me there under the name Symbolic Thinking T. Mrs., my surname. We can stay in contact there, and I said that I'm on Odyssey, but then some people ask me why I don't have more videos on Odyssey, because it's very hard to upload long videos. My videos were quite long, so I upload my shorter videos there. If you want to schedule personal consultations with me, you can certainly do it. Just please remember that I do not work with classical astrology. I'm interested in personal development, astropsychology, and spiritual astrology. I also have consultations based on Thetahealing, which I recommend to everybody in today's time, because we need to get rid of our old programs that can be now maybe, that can be, they can create some sort of stagnation in us. And I also offer consultations based on Feng Shui. If you like this video, like it, share it, subscribe to my channel. Thank you very, very much for that. I wish you good luck and see you soon.